Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is the Narcissistic Resistance, and this resistance video is sponsored by contribution from Nightblazer, and here's his story. Hi, Ollie. I would like to be referred to as Nightblazer, a real-life nickname that has to do with efficiency and speed, not with weed. I noticed that most of the people who write into you are female, but I am a male. I am the eldest of 4 brothers and the scapegoat of my 2 narc parents. I've been watching your channel for a while, and I respect the work you are doing. I've wanted to submit my story, but I didn't think my narc abuse was bad enough and almost felt like I was being a cowardly complainer. After all, I was never sexually abused, and the physical abuse of me and my younger brother stopped thanks to the intervention of an elementary school psychologist. Well, the fact that somebody had to step in and stop the abuse speaks volumes. Speaks volumes. The narcissist gets no credit here. They were stopped. They didn't stop themselves. Somebody else had to intervene. I am thankful that my narc abuse is not as bad as it could have been. But after seeing more of your recent videos, I saw commonalities with other stories you've written and my own situation. And I've told people this 1,000 times. Don't compare your story to anybody else's. Broken is broken. And whether you're smashed in 1,000 pieces, you take a plate, you smash it in 1,000 pieces, or you smash it in 4 pieces, it's still a useless plate. Not that I'm calling you useless. It's still broken. Broken is broken. I'm 32 years old, and I'm enraged at my parents for what they did to me. I've always been a victim of their narcissism, but this behavior started to magnify when I started an Amway business with friends in college in 2005. I was only 19 and was feeling really good about my life's plan. I was hospitalized for mental illness 3 times when I was younger, kicked out of my school district for retaliating to being bullied, but that's a story for another day. Currently, I live at home, have no job, and my only source of income is selling wood carvings I make. I would like to stress that I wasn't always this way. When I was 19, the Amway business I started that taught me success principles. I'm a Sigma male. I was always someone who desired autonomy by nature, and this made a business like Amway too ideal for me. I dedicated myself wholly to it. However, my narc mother, who I will the nun father, who I will call the nun father, who I will call Mr. Hyde, and golden child younger brother, who I will call Aggro, attacked me at every turn, and it eventually boxed me into the corner I'm still fighting my way out of now. You understand, you know, Amway is multi-level marketing. And multi-level marketing is nothing more than narcissist, is just narcissism by manipulation. It's no wonder you gravitated towards it based on you being raised by 2 narcissistic parents. I mean, it's like, it's worse than retail, to be honest with you. That's a huge, huge red flag right there. I have never experienced this level of narc abuse until the day I defied my parents and started my Amway business on February 18th, 2005. I remember the first day the abuse started. It was the creepiest thing I have at that point in my life. When I woke up the following morning after starting my Amway business, my parents and younger brother emerged from their respective bedrooms at the same time. I lived upstairs, and when I opened the door, Aggro, who lived across the corridor from me, burst out of his room, and I could hear my parents opening their door from downstairs. I walked down to breakfast after Aggro, and aside from the the synchronized door opening, everything seemed like every other morning. That is until I got downstairs. I went to make my eggs, and they all started harassing me about my business at once. I ignored them and continued making my breakfast. Due to being bullied and my training my mind due a combination of being bullied, martial arts, religious training, and witchcraft, and inspiration from anime, I learned not to be affected each and every time a single group of knuckleheads decide to give me a hard time. I believe they would calm down and get used to it if I gave them a month at most. I knew nothing about narcissistic personality disorder at the time. I couldn't have been more wrong. The next few years were hell. Not only did my parents and aggro not get used to it, their abuse got worse and worse as I got better and better as a person. By my first year and a half, I made more by myself than my parents expected of me. Before Amway, I was socially awkward, goth college student studying marine biology in college. The goth thing was not a phase. I was very into it and still into it. However, I recognized that the socially awkward part was due to my parents' narc treatment. I worked very hard and overcame what I now understand is social anxiety by putting myself out there and talking to people about business. Listen, man, I know I don't know where this is going, but the multi-level marketing thing, man, it's not legitimate. It's not legitimate. You're scamming people. It's narcissism run amok. It's not a good thing. I mean, to say they attacked you, I mean, I would like to know what they attacked you over, because they were attacking you over working for Amway. I wouldn't have attacked you over it, but I wouldn't have agreed with it either, because I know what Amway is. It's a multi-level marketing company. They're scam artists. They go around scamming people, giving them false hope, and the only ones who make money are the ones at the top. I hope this isn't going to turn into an Amway commercial. I really don't. I really don't. I had a lot of time to myself growing up due to my father working and my mother being occupied with taking care of my twin brothers, who were both born when I was 7 years old. Although at times I found myself lonely and wanted friends from my neighborhood that were close by to hang out with, as I could only see my friends from the hood occasionally. This was in the mid-90s when the internet was just starting to integrate into mainstream life. It was being alone that enabled me to develop a strong sense of self, which served to safeguard me from the condensed narc treatment I received in my college years, among many other things that happened to me throughout life prior to. I learned morality from various sources and developed a reliable and genuine character that made me very hireable in the minds of employers. I landed the first, second, and third jobs I ever applied for. I got a job working at my local McDonald's Express to fund my business ventures, but it was hell for every second I spent in the presence of my narc abusers. They would try to get me into an argument to poison my mind, knowing I needed to be positive for the day. When I would come home at night, they would open the front door before I could and begin harassing me by talking to me with the same malice and anger as if we were in the middle of an argument. I just wanted to be left alone. At this point, they had stopped giving me rides. I was too smart to get a car in New York State at age 18 and pay ridiculous insurance rates. Not like it mattered, because my dad refused to teach me how to drive anyway. At this point, I had decoded the Long Island bus schedule on the internet and learned to take the bus on my own. They also stopped buying me food, hoping to bully me into giving up my dreams, but the chance of that wasn't happening. Due to my business training's education on positive thinking, I realized that whatever they took from me was an opportunity to give myself instead. After they saw I was buying my own stuff and taking public transportation for a while, they began offering me rides and buying me food out of the blue. I wasn't an idiot. I knew they were doing this to bring me back under their control. I always respectfully declined any food they got me, and when they whined about spending money on it, I politely told them they could have it as if I were doing them a favor, knowing that reacting negatively to their retort was giving in to them, poisoning my mind. I literally ignored or refrained from any negativity and reframed it as something else, keeping myself in a state of childlike innocence to keep my mind and heart pure. I was reading books and listening to CDs to counteract their negative input with positive input. Amway emphasizes household commodities as their core products, something I used to my advantage in becoming more independent. I began purchasing their laundry and dish detergents to not only understand the products to explain to clients, but to become more independent in doing my own dishes and laundry. Dude, I hate to tell you this, Amway targeted you. No legitimate job makes you buy their products to sell. Like, nobody does that. However, I would soon find out this was unsustainable as their behavior got worse. Every day was like walking on eggshells trying to avoid their toxicity. I found my way around their attempts at poisoning my mind. The more boundaries they crossed in retaliation, I just wanted to be left alone. After I lost my job due to the McDonald's Express closing down and being at a function during rehiring, I was constantly harassed on a daily basis about getting a job. For that year, I worked at McDonald's Express. They said I was a bad son for neglecting my family and that I was endangering my health by overworking myself with building a business at the same time. Now, magically, I was lazy and a baby for gritting my teeth as I was forced to accept rides and food from them. Every time I would get in the car with them for any reason, they would harass me through and through. However, I was mentally strong from the mental strength gained and clarity gained from business training and other things in my life, such as my pagan religious values. So I was able to recover quickly from it. Dude, you got too much going on in this. You got too much going on here. Okay, and I'm wondering if you have some sort of mental issue. Like, it's starting to worry me. One of the business mentors at Amway once told us that the coach of his college football team would test the physical fitness of his athletes by how quickly they recover from tiredness after a run, and taught the group that the same applies to their emotional health. Amway screwed up your head. This is what they do. I walked into the meeting and instantly adjusted as if nothing bad even happened. Dude, you joined a cult. Dude, your parents are trying to get... I have to question whether or not you're in a cult and your parents are trying to get you out of it, because that's exactly what Amway is. It's a cult. You're talking like you're in a cult. And I'm seeing a lot of red flags, whether it's the anime or the paganism or the long list of things. Those are all cult-like behaviors that you're fixating on and you're caught up in. And I feel like halfway you're trying to give Amway lessons here. So I'm really questioning, like, if you're some tool of Amway, that's been some tool of Amway that's been created. They targeted you because of your issues. I walked into the meeting and instantly adjusted as if nothing bad happened and everything was okay to begin with. I spent hours of hardcore training to develop this level of control, knowing it would be necessary to deal. However, this would only prompt them to push more boundaries. The boundary closing took its toll when every single one of my actions was monitored, and the nun would run after me when I tried to escape them. Each time I would run up to my room after getting home, my mother would run up to me, pound on the locked door while screaming at me, pretending to check if I was in the room. She knew I was in the room and was trying to lure me into responding so she could start an argument with me. I knew this was more the case, so I didn't respond. I didn't know what to do at this point. I didn't even have the comfort of my room to escape to anymore. I learned from experience that once my abusers crossed the boundary, that was that was this was it. I began having homicidal thoughts since this started. It only got worse from then on. Every single one of my actions was criticized, no matter how trivial it was. I couldn't be around them either. I couldn't be around them without either being yelled at and lectured in great length to tend to some minuscule errand with more conversation that was necessary, or being told how to do something that I clearly knew how to do. Eventually, the location of the Amway meetings I attended switched from being a bus ride away to Queens and a much harder ride to make. I was still working various jobs in telemarketing and sales, usually getting my commission stolen and quitting each time, or in fast food where they cut my hours. Mr. Hyde would always tell me to buy my own stuff when I would find a job, even before my first paycheck. I would still buy my own stuff to be independent, but this left me with very little money at the end of the week. So little that I couldn't even accumulate savings. I knew I needed better work if I was going to escape my narc abusers and make my dream come true. But each time it was the same story. I wanted to kill them. I still do sometimes. I want to cut their throats while they're sleeping, burn down the house, run away. But my better sense steps in to stop me before I can drag myself down into the negative thought spiral. It sucked because I felt as if the people I was adopted by were in charge of my fate. I did nothing wrong internally. I had everything required to bring my dreams to life, except for the right to pursue happiness to do so. I just wanted to shake these devils off my back, and the option of parricide became more and more tempting the more I thought about it. I didn't want to hurt them. I just wanted it all to stop. I eventually went to art school in San Francisco because one of my younger brothers was going to college in a nearby area. Mr. Hyde told me this was my last chance. Afterwards, he'd give up on me. I knew this really meant he intended to sabotage my art school endeavors, so he could find an excuse to discard me, and wouldn't you know, I was right. Although I attained several years' worth of skill in only one semester at that impressive art school, my absences downgraded me below passing level. Well, why would you have absences if you were out in San Francisco? At that school, 3 unexcused absences made a downgrade for the class, and my parents suddenly cut me off during midterms. I tried finding and working a job while attending school at the same time. I truly did, but no company had a match for my daytime hours. I had no laundry money and thus didn't shower since I had no new clothes to change into. I stopped speaking to my parents and focused on my work. However, my roommate would open up the window at night and I got sick. I couldn't inform my RA because I had no California insurance, and I'd get kicked out of my dorm during finals. I knew that art school had training like no other, focusing on the technical skill of realism and the foundation for creative work, and in an age largely opposed to quality, traditional art in favor of glorified ink block tests that pass for profound, insightful pain. Dude, you're going on and on about yourself here. Are you writing for help, or are you writing trying to write an essay? I'm sorry. I have to question what's going on with you. I really do. Because this thing is a giant red flag, and I'm only halfway through this. I tried my best, but I couldn't get to class in time. I was too weak, but I still dragged myself every day up the steep San Francisco sidewalks, lugging my giant sketchbooks and my 30 pounds of clay, while my feet were too heavy from the sickness, but I always arrived at least an hour late, either from waking up too late or missing my bus. I could barely stand and did all I could to cover the fact that I was sick. However, being late an hour meant an absence in my school, even if I arrived on time. This was all done for the sake of the industry. I tried, Ollie. I did more than I've ever seen in those pompous, lazy-ass narcs ever do for anything. Luckily, I was able to attend another semester and did well to pass, but my grades were still pretty low. Finally, I did a half semester during the summer, anything to keep from going back home, knowing that despite my eligibility that I wouldn't be able to attend again if I did. I found an off-campus apartment and registered for one studio class for summer half semester, the only time frame offered for the summer. It was grueling, but I wanted to learn all I could, so I did these overtly ambitious projects. However, I ended up getting a D when my final project broke as I was putting it in the kiln. I tried my best to fix it the next day before a final critique, but it was too much and to do in too little time. I would have made it had it not been for that blunder. I was dismissed from the academy, but I didn't go home. I stayed on the street for a few weeks, even got a job while homeless, using the small money left over in my bank account using the small money left over in my bank account to buy a nail clipper and some deodorant, go to a McDonald's restroom, cut my nails, and wash up to disguise the fact I was homeless. However, I was getting no sleep. I was street savvy and knew I could go to church to sleep, but while staying safe, but I wasn't sleeping much out of fear of being abducted or robbed. I could hold my own, but I was really afraid of ruining my future or getting jailed for rearranging other homeless dudes' face trying to steal my stuff. Dude, I mean, I'm sorry, but I really think you might have some deeper issues than your parents. I mean, just the way this is just going. You got real issues, man. And I'm sorry to tell you that, but you got real issues. I'm not a doctor, but you need help. You need more help than I could probably give you. That's as honest as I can be with you. I'm going to try to get through the rest of this, but this is very, very difficult. It was a horrible time in my life, but I planned on getting off the streets in 2 years. The job was a canvassing job for Planned Parenthood, and I filled out the application by putting my own apartment address. However, I couldn't function, and my manager concerned wouldn't let me work. I could tell I was respected in the office for my dedication and ability to understand the material, but they had to let me go because I was falling asleep standing up. I was scheduled to pick up my paycheck in a week. However, I had to go to the hospital before that happened. My lack of sleep caused me to have sleep deprivation-induced delirium, which caused me to hallucinate. Dude, you got real problems. You have real problems, man. The San Francisco trains called Muni ran through the streets on a track, and I was so scared because I was not seeing things, but my entire perception of my environment changed. For the first time in my life, I had succumbed to feelings of helplessness and had to call an ambulance. I was placed in a mental hospital, and that's when I received a surprise from the nun. I don't know how she knew where I was or got the number to the hospital, but somehow she managed to. She cried crocodile tears over the phone, claiming she was worried about me and I didn't fall for it. Dude, honestly, I think you're paranoid. I think there's a lot of this story you're leaving out. It seems like you got some real mental problems and some real paranoia going on. Not to say that your parents were perfect, but this sounds like somebody who has some real mental problems. And that's as honest as I can be with you here. What happened to your brother? You moved out there because your brother was out there. Where was your brother? Like, there's so many holes in this story that you're leaving out. And sometimes it's real hard to admit when you got mental issues, okay? And I can't believe I'm saying this, but, like, there could be a lot of narcissism in your family. I'm not going to discount that. But you got you got mental issues, man. You need help. You do need help here. I told her I wasn't coming back to her, Mr. Hyde, and Agro. My younger brothers are twins, and they're more of the lost children stuck on the sidelines of the conflict, so they don't bother me. They told me I could stay with my aunt who lived in a different county in Long Island. That meant a new and better start for me. This aunt was an educated school superintendent with a doctorate degree who had an art studio in her house due to her Welsh husband being a fantastic artist. She was on Mr. Hyde's side of the family, which mostly consists of the Arabic equivalent of rednecks who behave like savages. But some have become more Americanized and distanced themselves from that culture. I also knew the area she lived in offered new potential for job opportunities, but I was skeptical. My skepticism turned out to be true. I stayed with an uncle who lived in San Francisco for a week and then went to pick up my paycheck. Missing the flight Mr. Hyde had booked for me intentionally do so. I told him that I needed to pick up my check, and he booked the flight in spite of this. I didn't feel sorry for him because I knew he was doing it so I wouldn't have any money in my pocket when I came home. I gave up feeling sorry for them years ago when I realized they never wanted to do anything about their problems except complain about them. Why didn't you just have them mail you your check? Mr. Hyde paid for a second flight ticket. This time I went and was told I would be staying at their house for 3 days before moving in with my aunt. Agro picked me up from the airport after my plane landed, and in a light tone scolded me for being insensitive to my father's illness and the loss of his business. Around the time I started my second semester in February of that year, my dad was diagnosed with cancer and had to be hospitalized. He had almost lost his business, a beer house he used to own, but now rents out due to a car crashing into it. This wasn't the first time this happened. Cars had sidewinded off the road and somehow crashed into it in the past. I didn't even understand how I could be insensitive, considering both of these things were entirely news to me. The nun told me that they deliberately didn't tell me that they thought it would interfere with my studies. Funny they didn't have a problem interfering with my studies when they cut off the first semester and wouldn't even deposit money for me to do my laundry. Because you didn't go to class, man. You weren't showing up. I mean, you can make all the excuses you want for it. You're an adult. They're paying your bill out there. You're not showing up for class. And you're making every excuse under the sun, one after another, and you have this paranoia about you. I'm sorry, but the problem is you. I mean, you do have you do have some sort of mental problem that you're not telling me. This isn't normal behavior. The things you gravitate to, the Amway. You're a victim of Amway. I'm not saying you're a bad person. You're a victim of Amway. You're a victim of these cult-like organizations. Planned Parenthood's no better either. You're expendable to them. A guy like you, okay, and this is what you're going to make yourself vulnerable by trying to fight this. And again, I'm not saying your family doesn't have issues in narcissism. I'm not saying that. My concern is clearly you and your safety, because you will continue to be a victim of these type of cult-like organizations. I promise you that. I promise you that. You're expendable to them. They consider you a useful idiot. That's not what I'm calling you. That's what they call you. I've since been readmitted to the school due to their policies and took an online semester that I got A's in, but it's been difficult getting the money to go back to San Francisco due to rising house costs. Yeah, it's expensive out there, man. I've been back and forth since, but I could never stay for long. It pisses me off. At this time of this writing, I'm 32, unemployed, and make a meager living with my art, and I'm the subject to abuse on a daily basis. All my brothers have moved out, so I don't have to put up with aggro except on occasions when he visits. The lost children twins are the only people I consider to be real family, and it's because of the help and occasional financial assistance one of them that I was able to get as far as I have. I can tell that he helps me because he really cares, and his kindness shows me what family is really supposed to be about. Is it because he gives you money? Is that what you're seeing kindness as? Because of him, I've decided to reconsider on living single, although I remain divided on the issue. I may one day start a family of my own. However, my narc abusers took away the one thing I can never get back, my 20s, and I feel like I need to make up for lost time. Dude, you know what? You look for excuses. You look for excuses at this point. Look at how much time you wasted. What were you doing out in California in your 20s? And you want to go back? So if you want to go back to art school and you were in art school in your 20s, but now you're saying your 20s is... It doesn't make sense, man. It doesn't make sense. You're making a lot of excuses. I know I can do it with focus and concentration, and I'm doing all I can to live my dreams on the DL with whatever conditions I have to work with at the moment. However, I'm still angry, and I won't ever forgive them. I want to hurt them. I want to kill them. I want them to suffer because it doesn't seem right that they can get away with what they did. Listen, dude. I mean, you're talking about them. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I mean, for what you're saying, I mean, even if what you're saying is 100% accurate and they're doing all this to sabotage you, the level of thought of violence you're putting into this, I mean, believe me, and I could get violent, okay? It's not rational. It's not a rational response. It's not balanced, not even close. It's your own paranoia driving you. I'm going to ask you if there's a history of schizophrenia. It sounds like you have schizophrenia. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but that's what it said. It sounds like you're paranoid schizophrenic. That's what it sounds like, and I would suspect that's probably what you've been hospitalized for, being a paranoid schizophrenic. And I don't say that to disparage you or to hurt you in any way, but I gotta be honest here. It's not just a battle against them to me, but a war against what seems to be fate itself. Like you're writing movie scripts in your head about this. And that's how this whole thing is written. If crime were legal for like for a 24-hour, like in that movie, like please don't. If you're gonna bring up that fucking Purge movie, which is ridiculous, you're caught up. See, and you're 32 years old. You're a millennial. You're a millennial. You got caught up in that whole anime fantasy / the Purge, where you got problems, man. You got this all wrong. The problem is you. The only crime I would commit is killing both of them and going to Agro's house and finish him off and burn it down. If you can even call that a crime instead of a warranted punishment. I'm sure you can see why I was hesitant to submit this entry. Submit an entry. I don't sound or behave like a typical victim of narc abuse. No, you don't, because you're not. I don't think you are. I think you're a victim of your own. I have too much self-respect, and when they bite, I bite back. I guess deep down I always know that the worst thing I could do was submit to them. They took my finances from me. They took control of my life from me. I wasn't going to let them take my mind and soul too. However, this anger I feel doesn't come from nothing, and I didn't go from being on the track I was on at 18 and 19 to still being at home at the age of 32 because my parents raised a jolly old household full of love, affection, principles, morals, and jelly beans. I didn't describe the abuse in full detail, as I believe that in and of itself is a story, and I don't even know how to cover it all. Even though I'm not down and out, I'm still damaged. The anger is etched onto my face, and I still have trouble controlling and speaking and looking at people with hostility, even if I'm consciously aware that I'm doing it. Dude, if you're looking at other people with hostility, that's a problem. That's something else. That's something else. Most of us want to just hide away and not be seen. I can't find the switch in my brain that gets it all to stop, and that's your problem, because we all have the switches. Every time I go out, in the rare occasions I wear sunglasses, even if it's at night, because I'm worried I might startle people and they'll start to spread rumors that I'm a monster or some crazy killer. This has made it hard. Well, because your eyes are matching your thoughts. I understand the homicidal rage from abuse, but I don't walk around with it on the street. This has made it hard to even go to a job to apply, let alone get through the interview process. Believe me, I've tried. I yearn for the positive, happy, yet strong, self-sufficient me that is buried deep down on the inside. I want to be that person again. These days, all I do is work on the art. I sell online and try to dig up the best version of myself that is buried under all the toxic psychological rubble. I've gotten closer, but I really want out of this situation, yet I can't turn it off with a switch. Thank you for the work that you do. You help in ways you may not realize, and hope a sense of accomplishment because of that. Sincerely, Night Blazer. Look, I know this is not where you wanted this to go or what you probably were expecting. Or maybe it was. I don't know. Look. Your anger, where we all have it and we all get those homicidal rages, yours is on another level. That's quite frightening. It frightens me for what you're talking about. I would ask you, you said you were a hospital, you were in a mental institution 3 times. The way you were walking around San Francisco, that sounds like a paranoid schizophrenic. The lack of sleep, all of it just speaks to paranoia. That you've generated to multi-level marketing like Amway just speaks to you being a victim of something else. That's not to say that your parents aren't narcissistic and they didn't give you and they didn't do things. Okay, I'll take you at your word. I'll take you at your word that they did. Okay, But before you can even think about tackling narcissistic abuse, okay, you have to make sure your own mental issues are understood and in check. Because how are you going to know what's real and what's not at this point? I question how you could possibly know what's real and what's not at this point. Okay, there's a lot of your story that you didn't tell me. There's a lot of holes in here. Okay, I will tell you this. It's very concerned. I've never been this concerned. I've never been this concerned. Okay, Amway's not a good thing. Multi-level marketing companies look to take advantage of people. That's what they do. That's the reality. I'm sorry. That's the truth. Okay, and there's a lot of your history that you're going to have to look at internally, and I know that's not what you want to hear. But before you can take on the narcissism, the narcissist, you have to make sure your head is right. That's the best advice I could give you right now, Night Blazer. You cannot get violent. You can't. Okay? If you're seeing somebody, please continue to see them and be honest about what's going on. And you have to be honest with yourself. Is this really my parents, or is this some sort of paranoia? Is this me? Is this my own mental issues? And I'm sorry I have to say it like that, but, you know, I do. So, I really do hope that helps. So, thank you for your contribution and your story. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comments section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, a narcissist you'd like to expose, you'd like to set up Skype, a phone call, have a private video made, or a Facebook live chat, or you'd like to sponsor a video like this for someone who needs help and can't afford it, or just make a contribution to the channel in general to keep it growing, advancing, and successful, because this channel survives 100% on contributions from all of you. Without you, all of this goes away. So if you like what you see here and you want to see more videos like this, you know what to do with the PayPal and email links in the description box. Also, please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been The Narcissistic Resistance.